At what point do you think is the tipping scale between having enough reviews?
Having any reviews at all is a bonus. They say that in the latest research that even if you have as few as 5 reviews, that gives you a better than 25% chance of a conversion. So you don't have to be terribly sophisticated or think that you have to gather 100 reviews before you gain some credibility.
What happens if you get a bad review and you don't think that it's a fair review?
The first thing I would say is don't panic, because if you're a busy business, in all likelihood, things are going to go wrong every so often, despite your best efforts. So what I would say is reply with all reviews, whether positive or negative, within 24 hours or 1 working day if you can. Acknowledgement is really important. Flipping on its head, responding to good reviews is equally as important as responding to the negative ones.
What about you, and welcome to the Roots to Revenue podcast. Did you know that 93% of buyers say that reviews will influence their buying decision? In a world where reputation is everything, reviews can make or break your business. However, in today's podcast with Lorcan from Trusted, and he's going to tell you exactly how you can use reviews to turbocharge your own business. Before we get into today's podcast, let me tell you about the sponsor. The channel is sponsored by Jobber. Jobber is my go-to software. It does all my scheduling, my invoicing and my quoting, but best of all, it gets me paid faster. If you're a busy business owner and you don't have any time and you want to earn more money, well then you want to check out Jobber down in the video description.
To get your unique Premier Lawns discount, it's premierlawns.link/jobber. We'll be diving into the power of customer and client reviews, how to manage your online reputation, and creative ways to gain new customers. Before we introduce the guest, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe, as it really helps the channel.
And leave a review.
Lorcan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me along. My name is Lorcan Flanagan, and I represent a company called Trusted. And what we do, we are an online customer review management and reputation company. And what we do is we help our clients to capture, amplify, and leverage their customer reviews to get them more business to their websites and more conversions.
Why are online reviews so crucial for small businesses in a digital world?
They're really, really important because it basically talks to the trustworthiness and the reliability and the credibility of the organisation that searcher is trying to establish. If you imagine, for example, that if you're going out to capture to buy a product or service, you want to know that they'll be fit to deliver that product or service and that they have a track record of doing so. So, I mean, it's also it does things like impacts your social media and your search engine optimization scores as well. So our company helps to do all of those things in order to raise your credibility and increase your social proof.
At what point do you think is the tipping scale between having enough reviews? When is 30, 40, 50, 60?
Having any reviews at all is a bonus. They say that in the latest research that even if you have as few as 5 reviews, that gives you a better than 25% chance of a conversion. So you don't have to be terribly sophisticated or think that you have to gather 100 reviews before you gain some credibility. Depending on your type of business, quite the opposite could be true. So if you're in a small volume but highly specialised business environment, a handful of reviews is enough to convince some people that you've got the credibility and that they'll choose you over your competitor.
Especially, I suppose, with a restaurant and what have you, the reviews are really super important, and in a lot of cases it's easier for those businesses to generate reviews. This podcast is really aimed at man with van.
Okay.
How would you say 30 to 40 online reviews is, or what's the...
It's a good starting point. I think the most important thing in terms of reviews is that they're current and that they're obviously authenticity and validity, and that they're not 5 years old. You know, that customer wants to understand that the last person that had an experience with that organisation had a good one. And so what people will be looking at is the quality of the review and the I suppose the date stamp on it, if you like. So like I say, I wouldn't think too much about the quantity to begin with. Just get a handful of really, really good reviews. If you've got repeat customers, for example, always coming back to you, don't be afraid to go back to those delighted customers. Says, "I know we did. It sounds like we did a good job for you there recently. Would you mind giving us a wee review?"
When's the best time to ask for a review?
It can vary from one business to the next, but as opposed to use the hospitality or the restaurant example you used earlier on, a good time to ask is just as you're paying the bill, for example, or you're just about to go out the door and the maitre d' or the general manager has presented you with the bill and you've got a nice belly full of nice food and nice wine or whatever the case may be and everybody's in good form. That's the optimal moment in that.
If we transferred that to a man with van, or if you run a small business and you're out carrying out services in people's homes, whenever the customer's saying to you, you've done a fantastic job there, John.
Yeah.
That's the time to ask.
That's the time to ask. Just as you're handing over the invoice or you're just about to take payment. I'll give you a perfect example. We have got some customers that have QR codes on keyrings, on their van keyrings, if you like, so that you just present that to the consumer at their front door. And obviously you've got them. That's the optimal moment, but that's going to be different for different businesses. If it's an online business, for example, typically between 7 and 10 days is a good time to ask for a review after somebody has delivered a product or service to your business. Or to
a tradesman. A tradesman, best time is at the door or whenever they're sending the invoice.
Absolutely.
Or if the customer comes back and says, "You've done a great job," that's the time to...
Or another good example would be if it's, you can embed, Trust Us will embed links on your sort of digital assets as well as your printed assets as well. So if you've got flyers or if you've got, for example, invoices or monthly accounts, again, you can embed those, either the QR codes or the links in order to capture the review, Going
to go straight to something, going to jump a little bit ahead.
Sure.
Because a lot of people maybe that are watching this have maybe had a bad experience with a review. Mm-hmm. What happens if you get a bad review and you don't think that it's a fair review on the different? Does it differ for different platforms?
It does. The first thing I would say is don't panic, because if you're a busy business, in all likelihood, things are going to go wrong every so often, despite your best efforts. So what I would say is reply with all reviews, whether they're positive or negative, within 24 hours or one working day if you can. Acknowledgement is really important. And like I say, I suppose flipping on its head, responding to good reviews is equally as important as responding to the negative ones. But obviously there's a sense of urgency and there's a perceived wrong to be righted, if you like, with negative reviews. So acknowledge and empathise and say, "We're sorry this has happened." Now, by saying sorry, it doesn't mean that you're accepting responsibility, because at this very early stage, you don't know what has happened for sure, unless you're intimately close to what the customer or you were dealing with it yourself. Like I say, empathise, take the time to listen and be objective, and then take that information away, and then, like I say, manage the client's expectations around when you would expect to come back to with a response. Don't make any promises or make any offers at that early stage.
Would you be best in most cases to say, "Well, wait till you calm down, because I know if I got a bad review, I'd be effing and blinding." So you want to take a deep breath, maybe even though you want to come back within 24 hours, you might want to sleep on it. Would that be it?
Absolutely. Unless obviously it's something really, business critical or mission critical to the customer, where a greater sense of urgency exists. Like I say, manage their expectations. Go away and have a cup of tea or a beer or whatever it is, whatever your poison happens to be, and step outside the event or the incident, if you like. And better again, if you can find somebody within your organisation, if you're big enough.
If you can resolve it as soon as possible.
Well, it's not even that. It's just stepping back from it and being objective and saying, somebody who isn't financially or emotionally attached to the business as you are, to get an objective opinion. Say, this is what's happened. This is how things transpired. Are we at fault here, or how much are we at fault here? And then that's when you gather your thoughts. You think about a strategy to resolve it, or some level of olive branch, if you like. And then at that point, you're in a position where you've gone back to the customer and you say, "Well, yes, I think, this is how it looks from our perspective. We accept that we got that and that wrong, and we're really sorry. We don't want you to feel like this. We want you to come back as a repeat customer. we have some suggestions as to how we might rectify this problem. And what that does is that shows, if you're sitting on the opposite side of the table to the customer, that you're making a genuine effort to fix what has gone wrong.
Good customer service is easy whenever everything's going well.
Correct.
You're judged whenever everything goes bad.
Yeah.
Whenever excuse the French, the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
That's whenever you're judged.
Yeah. Yeah. It's how you can turn, and I always say that you can use that that as a really sort of stellar opportunity to showcase your abilities when things go wrong, because that's a true measure of customer care. I think I can think of numerous occasions in the past where I've had an elevated sense of people's capabilities and scruples, if you like, whenever things have gone wrong and they've fixed them. And then I'll always go back to them because of the way they dealt with it when things went south, if that makes sense.
And a fake review.
Yeah.
Best way to deal with that?
Fake review. It's a very, very hot topic at the moment. The best thing to do is before you label it as a fake review, be absolutely sure that it is indeed a fake review. The difficulty with platforms nowadays is that you've got two types of platforms. So you've got open platforms where anybody can say anything at any time of the day or night. And it's difficult to manage those, and it's very frustrating because some people just have way too much time on their hands, to be honest, The other side of that is, with Trust Us, you have a closed platform. So what you do is we issue you with a QR code or a unique link. In both cases, they're very unique, and we can trace it back to you as the user or the product or service user. So there's that closed loop, safety net, if you like, or reassurance that this person has indeed, in fact, used my product or service or both, so that there is accountability. And that is the level of accountability that you would want for your business. The fake ones, to answer your original question, is ignore them. Ignore them.
From my understanding on Google, if you answer a fake review and you say this is fake and then try and get it removed, then Google look at it as being authentic. Whereas if you don't reply to it and you report it, there's more chance of it getting removed. Have you heard it? Have you heard that?
I haven't, if I'm honest, Robbie. Google is a tricky one in that whilst it is the go-to platform for both business to business and business to consumer, it's not perfect, and none of the platforms are perfect. So what I would say is, depending on the context, I think context is really important. If it was my business, I would challenge them and just say, listen, for the third time, second or third time, this is a fake review. Mr. Google, please, or Mrs. Google, please do something with this. This is not fair, So
there's a lot of people would actually, if they get a fake review through and they can't get rid of it, or especially small business dipping their toes in their reviews, they get a fake review or a poor review and they put their head in the sand and they remove all their reviews. That's
counterproductive, because what you've got to remember is that is a tiny percentage. If you're really good at what you do, that is a tiny percentage of your overall customer base. There is a small percentage of people out there that you will never make happy. And that is something that we as businesses have to accept and just move on. Now, there is the ones there that, again, they have perhaps maybe have just reasons for leaving reviews of I'm not talking specifically about fake ones, but I'm talking about negative reviews. The worst thing you can do is stick your head in the sand, as you said, because that doesn't do anything for your reputation. It's zero.
Yeah.
And quite the opposite, actually. Be responsive. Be sharp with your responses, as in, within the 24 hours or within the one working day, and acknowledge those. And just saying, listen, there's all sorts of language that you can use. We acknowledge your review above, and we're working to resolve this with you. And that shows maturity, and it shows acknowledgement, and it shows that you're prepared to try and make an attempt to put it right. And like I said a few moments ago, you will find yourself having a better, more credibility, an enhanced reputation as opposed to where it's seen that you ignore negative reviews and bury them in the sand. Turn that negative into an opportunity for yourself, I would always say.
With fake reviews,
Yeah.
is there anything out there to sort of catch them before they go live onto the page for the review page?
There's no filter as such. The filter is you and your business, to be quite honest. And what that means is, even just around the whole subject of asking and capturing reviews, the same applies for the the fake ones or the malicious ones, which are, again, they're very hurtful as well. You need to be responsive. Make time every single morning or every last thing in the day. Put it into your calendar. Block time to check your platform, or in our case, if you're working with Trustus, for example, where you go into the dashboard and it manages the reviews from multiple platforms in one place. So that makes it really, really easier and manageable and less overwhelming, because at the end of the day, whether it's the first thing in the morning or last thing at night, sometimes the last thing you want to do is to read a fake or a poor review. But everybody's different. Find a time in the day where it works for you to deal with those, so that if it is a fake review or a malicious review, that you're equipped, your mind is equipped to deal with it at that particular time. So it could be first thing in the morning, it could be lunchtime, it could be last thing a day, but make it a habit. Stick it into your calendar, block it out. Outlook and all sorts of calendars have the ability to put these block time Monday to Friday or whatever your work pattern is, in order to so that it acts as a trigger for you. And that is your trigger where you dive into because it's time well spent.
And which platform do you think is best for reviews in general?
I would, of course, say Trustus. But, each of them have their own nuances, if you like, and their own specific USPs, if you like. But what I like to think as, before you start spending a penny, get your Google review page up and running off your Google business page. That's the first thing. Second thing I would say is build a page on your website so that people can leave reviews. And to answer your question, I would say choose carefully depending on what industry you're in, because you're going to get industry specific ones. So the obvious ones in the hospitality, for example, would be booking.com or TripAdvisor. Okay. Well, I would suspect that the likes of checkatrade.com, or if there's I'm not intimately familiar with your business, but there might be a trade body or a trade organisation that where you can leave reviews for people who...
Most of the time, I think most people are going to leave reviews in Facebook, Google, Checkatrade. I'm not on Checkatrade. What are your views on the likes of Trustpilot?
Well, Trustpilot, again, is a competitor. Where I don't see the sense in that is you're leaving your website, or you're asking your customer to leave your website to leave a review on a third-party platform, okay? So Trustpilot is an open source or open platform.
So they're going somewhere else. Your customers going somewhere else.
So you're leaving, and what you're actually doing is you're diluting your brand. The thing about it is Trustpilot is, yes, a well-known competitor of ours, okay, but it has its flaws, like all of the platforms. My advice would be to say start from the beginning, like I say, with the Google ones, with reviews, direct people to your own website. Why dilute your own brand? And also have the security of using closed platforms such as Trustus, so that you know that you can verify the review and that is a genuine, and you can be sure that that individual or that business has actually used your product or service. So that would be my answer to that.
What review platforms does Google pick up in the searches? So I know they got show Facebook and Yelp and a few different ones.
Well, it depends on the quality of those organizations' SEO, their own SEO. But what I would say is it's almost always, like I said, Google is the go-to place for both B2B and B2C typically. And then if your own SEO is doing what it's supposed to be doing, then it should be picking up your own website straight away. And then there's the ones after that. So typically what we would advise is pick a half a dozen platforms from which we can, Trustus will pull the reviews into the dashboard.
Where you might typically find your customers as well. So because not everyone's going to be on Checkatrade. I'm not on Checkatrade.
Exactly. I suppose, people are doing discovery searches. They're looking for lawn care in Lisburn, for argument's sake. you want to make sure that your SEO is set up in such a way so that it is, that you're ranking in the top 5. And our platform enhances that by amplifying your 4 and 5 star reviews across all of your platforms, all of your socials. So that means that you can get that enhanced SEO from us.
What about the time difference between reviews? Does that matter, or does that depend on the trade?
Well, it depends on the volume, and the type of business is important. It's going to be vary, but over time you will get a sense of what works for you, and the algorithm is going to do its work there for you as well. In that, depending on the frequency when a customer uses your product or service. I wouldn't be overly concerned about volume again. It's quality over quantity, I would say. The second thing is, what I said earlier on in the podcast was around the date stamp very often on reviews. Now, some clients might choose not to allow a date stamp on reviews. My advice would be to, if you can, if it makes sense to do it, include that, so that there isn't a huge gap between reviews, so that there's consistency. I think what you're looking for, quality and consistency.
Because if you think yourself, if you're looking at reviews online, and you'll say a company has 20 reviews, but 5 of them or 10 of them are from 5 years ago, you're going to say, well,
that's not really. That was where my question was going, because we've been looking for trades recently, and you go through the reviews and you're looking some of them sometimes a month or 2 between reviews.
Yeah.
And then he's thinking, what's he doing in those 2 months between? Is he working or?
Yeah. I wouldn't concern myself. Again, if it was a high volume business and the reviews were few and far between, it tells me one of 2 things: that you're not asking often enough. Actually, that's how you fix it, to be quite honest. And I mean,
going to give a wee shout out to the sponsor, Jobber. With Jobber, we can automatically ask for reviews online.
Yeah.
So whenever you close a job, Jobber can automatically request that you get a review, which is really good. It's really turbocharged my review.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about a wee tip I recently introduced. That was something that Jobber had said in one of their blog posts. If you can get the customer to name one of your employees, if they name whatever employee they name, that employee then gets a tip. So
my name is Jason, by the
way. So Jason does quite well these days on getting. So what I found is it's really encouraged people to leave a review.
Yeah,
he gets a small tip.
Yeah,
but also then makes, whenever people read my reviews now, Robbie and his team, or Robbie and Jason, or Jason looked after me, or Jason did
fresh content.
Yes, it's fresh content, but it's also people, then they know who's, if you were looking to buy something from a small business, then all of a sudden it's a really friendly, it makes it
personalizes it.
Personalizes, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, business nowadays feels very transactional. Let's be honest. People go online, they buy this without really thinking where they're spending their money. Now, that might be a controversial statement, but I'm thinking of my own experience and the people around me, where I like to think, I stop and think where I'm spending my money, if I'm honest. And that is where, if you can personalize and, stand out from your competitors.
Is there any other tips you can give us about how to personalize and get sort of really turbocharge it?
There isn't really. I mean, it's personalization. It's name checking people, and interestingly, a lot of our customers use their reviews as a performance management tool for their businesses. So that if you're getting name checked 5 and 6 times a month, you're doing really well. And that can be spoke about, at the end of your review, for example, and then all of a sudden, I mean, when I worked in the oil business, for example, many, many moons ago, I had customers that only wanted to deal with me. Okay. And that is the goldest. And that was the days before digital marketing, or I'm old enough to remember, but the days before the internet. But my point is this, my point is not unique in that you want to personalize the experience so that they keep coming back. They love coming to you.
I've always found as well that if you can ask people whenever they're leaving a review if they can leave a picture, well, then that's absolutely amazing. If you get
Yeah.
If you can get a customer to leave a picture in a review, that's going to really turbocharge it. But ask them to not just say, Robbie and his team did an excellent job. You want them to write a little bit about the service that you provided.
Yeah.
Give a bit more than just a 5-star review. Easy 5 stars. You want.
Yeah. What you want to encourage your customers, when if they're going to take the time to leave a review, be specific. Call out Robbie or call out whoever, and it's just if there was a particular aspect of the service that they particularly liked, get them to call it out for you, because you can use that as a USB going to your very next customer. Okay, and there's an old saying, of course, that you're only as good as your last job. If you adopt that mindset, that I want to get 5 great reviews this month. Give yourself a target. Say, listen, make it competitive even, between, if you've got a small team, because that, rising tide lifts all boats, as they say. You want to be saying, honestly, the impact of the good news stories on your business is phenomenal, because, like I say, people are too focused on the negative stuff. What about the 96 or 97% of people who you do a terrific job for? Turn it right on its head and say, listen, spread the good news.
If you can build something in for any team members to incentivize them.
Yep.
To ask them for reviews.
Yep.
And then maybe give them some sort of bonus. Whoever gets most reviews, end of the month gets free lunch.
Yep. We have a pizza delivery company who all the drivers have a key fob with a QR code on it. Okay. And they're incentivized to collect reviews. Now, obviously, have to be good ones. No, not have to be good ones. I take that back. But what I mean is, they need to have done a good job to deserve it. That's the most important thing. And if they haven't, equal as well, do something about it. Turn it on its head. It's not just about the good ones.
The guys that have the key fobs, is there some sort of bonus scheme attached to
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think they get a $5 or something. Their employer gives them $5 for every new review. And I mean, what does that do? It's fresh content for their review page on their website, and that lifts their SEO. Everybody's a winner.
I find when looking at reviews, you're saying all reviews matter.
Absolutely.
Like, I'll go on, I'll look at the first few, and then I'll hit the filter to show me all the bad reviews, and I go through just to see when was their last bad review, and did they respond to it or anything like that. So
yeah. I mean, be objective about it. I mean, there's going to be occasions where things go wrong, and just see how they dealt with it. That's all I would say. Or if they ignored it, that's going to help form your judgment around whether that organisation deserves your patronage or not.
How can a business make the process of reviews more natural rather than feeling pushy?
That starts with you. You think about your customer journey. Now, there might be one, maybe two, maybe several variations of that, depending on the product or service. But think about from the initial awareness right through to the issue of the invoice and, sign off, whatever it happens to be. But think about the customer journey and then pick the optimal moments in that journey where it's going to be easy for that customer to do it. Now, it might well be on the doorstep as you're receiving your hot pizza and everybody's happy, or it might be 7 days later after you've issued an invoice by post or by digital or by email, whatever the case may be. But think about it. Or ask them, why don't you ask the customer? Make it all very much customer centric. We're trying to build our reputation. Share your journey, share your development, and share your expansion journey, if you want to call it that. Say, listen, we're working really hard to be the best at what we do, and we can only do that through customer feedback. When do you feel is the best time for you to give us a review after you've had our product or service? And what that shows is maturity and real sincerity. So. Start by thinking about the customer journey yourself, but why not ask the customer as well? What's the harm?
And how many times would you ask? So let's say, for example, you ask the customer on the doorstep, the customer says, yes, I'll do that. And then you send the invoice and then you ask again, would you mind leaving that with a review? If they haven't left a review, do you let it go, or would you follow it up in a couple of weeks' time and just say, John, just a wee reminder by email or whatever, John, just a wee reminder, would you mind doing that review?
I'm going to the politician's answer. It depends, but I think this is where the personalization comes into it. You will get to know if you've got a repeat customer who always comes back. you will know over time when to ask for that review. After the third time, I would say leave it until the next time. People are busy, people don't want to feel pressured. Just flag it on their account some way or other. I asked them for a review. You'll probably see the history on their account or on your CRM system where you've asked for it and it hasn't been completed. Park it, especially if they're a repeat customer, you will find it, or just go and get one from somebody else. Simple as that. You're not depending on just one, because you're obviously depending on a whole platform or a whole plethora of customer types and personas, in order to collect reviews. But what I would say is just polite persistence, and I think after 3 attempts that's reasonable, until the next time they come and use your product or service. Unless there's a problem, why didn't you phone them? Say, listen, we asked you for a review, is everything okay? That's another way of personalising customer care, where you actually take the time. I mean, let's be honest, who lifts the phone nowadays, from businesses to ask, how are you doing? Really, again, it's the humanisation of the business world is what, again, that's my mission,
I recently bought a product, and it must have been about 3 weeks ago, and it was about 2 weeks. I got an email, but the email didn't come through till I think it was about 5 o'clock at night, about asking to leave a review. I thought that the timing of that was quite good, because I'm sat down, not really, it's not coming through my working day. I thought it was quite clever that they waited to that sort of time to send it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, test, select, 25, 50, 75, 100 clients, and maybe 1 month, and then, split testing or whatever the case may be. Do it at a different time in the next month, and then you can maybe start to see trends and patterns as to when the optimal time is. To your point, is if it's 5 o'clock in the evening and you're just downing tools and you're in a good spot, that might be the optimal time. Might be 8 o'clock in the morning for some people, who knows? But I suppose if you're trying to get a consensus across a body of customers, it mightn't be any harm just to be creative and go the next step and think about doing it at different times over a period of 6 months to see where the uptake rate sits best.
You guys, through Trusted or through Jobber, you can ask for reviews. The likes of, would you recommend any ways? The best way to send mass emails would be to use something like MailChimp and send out a newsletter. Would that be?
MailChimp, or, if you have a CRM system in your organisation, then, there's great automations available, and you don't have to be a super whiz CRM expert to run those. There's lots of good examples like HubSpot and Salesforce and a few other, those Monday, another good example where you can set up, I believe you can set up automations to send out those review requests, after.
Is there any platforms, or what apps would you recommend? So you mentioned a few there.
Well, again, I suppose MailChimp is one of the more established ones, but there are others. I mean, what I would say is experiment, sort of take some time to do a bit of research on those, because,
find one that suits your needs.
Yeah, find one. I mean, and I suppose you can overthink these things. If it does what it says on the tin, use it. MailChimp is one example, but there are other examples out there as well that you can use. Just
off the top of your head, do you want to name a couple?
I can't think of any, to be quite honest. I'm really honest. But like I say, I mean, there is the ability to set up sequences in CRMs, most CRM systems, in order to do that very same function.
What are the benefits of being able to pull all that information together for a business? So if I have 100 Google reviews and 50 Facebook reviews and 10 Yale and 10 here and 10 there.
Yeah.
What's the benefit of being able to take all those reviews together? What way do businesses typically use that information to grow their business?
Well, you think about the amount of time it takes to manage all of those platforms. So you're bouncing from one platform to the other, and you're afraid of missing one, or you're forgetting one, or you've made, there's this fear that you've left it too long to respond. The beauty of our platform is that you can respond within our platform to all of the reviews that you have selected for the platforms that you've selected to pull the reviews in. So it's a time management first and foremost. It's the amount of time that you can save in your business by simply streamlining that process is, and not least the stress of and the worry of, if worry is the right word, but let's call it concern of forgetting to respond, or not being sharp enough or not being responsive enough. That's where we steal a march on a lot of competitors, whereby we're able to streamline that process for you and give you less stress.
So people are going to wherever suits them to write a review.
Yeah.
Trustis pulls all that information for
Yeah.
the client, for like the business
Yeah.
owner.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody else that's going out doing the review. And then Trustis then for the business owner, he replies to all the reviews in one place.
Yeah.
And then his reviews get published to where he wants them put out.
Pretty much. I mean, the score that you see on your Google search will be your cumulative score from all of the platforms that you have, that from which you're pulling the reviews in. So you're going to have, like you said a minute ago, Robbie, you've got 20 Google reviews, you've got 20 on your website, and you've got 10 on Facebook. That's 50. And you're going to arrive at an average score of that. So that's the score that you'll see with the stars beside the result. Whenever you do a Google search, whether it's a discovery search or a named search for your business.
Right, so even though they're not Google reviews, it still adds to their Google.
Accumulates or aggregates that score, yes.
With Trustis, whenever you give someone the QR code, they then go to a landing page that has a review just for Trust. It's not a review for Google or Yelp or off platform. But it's a closed system.
Yep,
so
closed platform,
whenever somebody goes there, you can... It's not somewhere where somebody can just go... They can't find that link on their by themselves.
Yeah.
They have to get a link to it. So you can say 100% this isn't just... Because you see a lot of websites and people go on and you see, Mrs. Jones says Premier Lawns did a fantastic job, but there's nothing to back that up. There's no hard evidence.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're giving a customer a link to your software, then they have to follow it, and you can see who is leaving the review.
It's verifiable.
Right? Verifiable. That's the word I'm after.
Yeah, it absolutely is, because it's you that's issuing it.
Yeah.
And it's not a third party platform like Trustpilot or Google or any other platform that's out there. You're in control of that. Because you have issued the QR code or the unique link, you're closing the loop. There's the verification, and then there's the you can stand over that review.
So really, if you were standing on the doorstep and you're talking to Mrs. Jones, and you say to Mrs. Jones, and she said, "Oh, you've done a wonderful job," you say, "Look, would you mind leaving me a review?
Yeah.
Would you mind leaving it on Google?" And some people say, "I don't have a Gmail account."
Yeah.
Would you mind leaving it on Facebook? I don't have a Facebook account. Well, look, let me send you a link to our review platform. You can go on there.
To our review page.
You can go on there and leave your review there.
Yeah.
And that's nice.
And you don't have to log in. And, if somebody, maybe people who are maybe a wee bit older, for example, where username passwords, I forget usernames and passwords all the time, so I'm talking about myself here. but it's the accessibility and the ease of use is so key. And it is, like, if it's people who aren't especially tech savvy, let's call it, where all they do is they press a button on their phone. You're going to get. I'll show you an example in a moment or two of what it actually looks like. But it's simple. It's easy. It's within anybody that has a smartphone. They just click the button, do the typing.
Brings them through.
Yep.
You have all their information.
Yep.
Can you give us 3 actionable steps business owners can take today to leverage online reviews?
Absolutely. First thing to do is Google is the go-to page for our go-to destination, if you like, for both business to business and business to consumer. Make sure that you have set up a Google business page for yourself. Make sure it accurately reflects what your business does and how you can be found. That's really on an SEO search, for example. And for goodness sake, make sure that the data is correct on your Google business page. That if a consumer rings that number, somebody answers. The business opening hours are correct. That it's, if you're a 24/7 business, somebody rings you at 3 o'clock in the morning, make sure that that's happened. Now, most businesses aren't. So nowadays you can set it up so that every single day of the week is you can define your open business hours. Okay. Second thing I would say is everybody in your organization that's customer facing. It's as much as a cultural or a mindset within organizations to get into the habit of asking for reviews. And there's a shyness there, and that's quite all right. But, as I said earlier on in the podcast, you've got to spread the good news of the 96 or the 97% of people that you do a fabulous job for. Tell everybody, that's the second thing. And it might require a wee bit of coaching and incentivization, if you like. Like I say, where...
small bonus for team members to ask for a review.
Yeah. And, I say, and it's a win-win for everybody. And the third thing that I would share with you today is make sure that you have a customer or client review page on your website so that people can be directed to your website to leave a review directly with you. And you're not diluting your own brand by leaving it on third-party websites. That's what I would say.
Can you share a real-world example where a business you trusted to manage their online reputation and to boost sales and growth?
Absolutely. Several examples. We have standalone businesses with one site where we've had a real impact on their business, and we also, one of our largest clients is actually Timpson's, who do
the key makers. The keys?
Keys, they make keys and they shoe repairs, and they've got sub-brands, for dry cleaners and things. They've got 2,200 outlets across the UK and Ireland, and we service them. So we do literally there's very few businesses that we can't help, is what I would say. And one good example is there was an optician's that didn't have a review page on their website, and they needed some help. They needed some help to get their SEO results optimized. So the first thing we did, we got their web developers to build a review page. They then got their staff to start collecting reviews, and all of a sudden it was a transformational. It was transformational for their business, because from not ranking at all to ranking in the top 5 for local search for opticians in their region. So they were absolutely delighted with that result. And that was, again, it was a small but significant change. It wasn't that difficult just to add a page to their website and then start collecting reviews themselves. Change the culture within that small business to say every time you close a customer, or sort of customer out with a glasses or contact lenses or whatever it was, just ask them for a review. And it was literally transformational. Another good example I can think of was a firm of undertakers. The same thing. They didn't have a review page on their website, and the average duration of searcher visits was 1.5 minutes. After they built their review page, that increased to 11.5 minutes. So more than 10 times customers or prospects or users or consumers were staying 10 times longer on their website. And they were able to attribute a 15% increase in business.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Absolutely brilliant. They were doing nothing else different except simply collecting reviews and publishing and amplifying them.
The power of reviews.
Yep. The power of reviews.
Yep.
Thank you very much for coming.
No problem. Thank you, Robbie.
Yep.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.